Oh, we are live. We are launched. How is everybody doing? It's good to see everybody. Let's see. Gallery view there so I can see everybody's face. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us. How is everybody doing today?
Good, Amu. How are you?
Good.
Doing okay. Doing okay. It's kind of a cold, dreary day today.
Yeah.
Cold and wet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a rain snow thing that's happening, and it's just really wet, and it's a good bundle day. Bundle and a movie and some hot chocolate.
It's too cold if it's raining.
Yeah. It's not that it's too cold, it's just I feel like everything's damp, you know? It's
Damp.
just wet.
Penetrates
Yeah.
right to the bone.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, good old Chicago weather. Well, it's good to see everybody. Thank you guys so much for hopping on today. And I think I'm really excited to talk today with Jeremy Reeves. For those of you who are either saw it on Facebook or saw him joining us, we're excited because The Beast was just released. So we're going to be talking a little bit about The Beast, and we're going to be talking about Reek. I'd love to hear a little about what I'm smoking, which I'll go first. We'll start passing the virtual pipe around. Today, the first bowl of my first bowl of today, I'm smoking the new fourth generation, the Resolution, that Jeremy partnered with Eric Sokoby, Eric Sokoby with to make for fourth generation. So it's a Virginia Oriental. And it's got just like this really nice little hazelnut top note, and it's pretty tasty, and I'm smoking it in my one of my first meerschaums. And I will pass that on to it's like Dave, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. I'm starting my day off with, I've had several bowls already. I've been at it since 3 in the morning. But starting the meeting off with a bowl of Bayou Morning Flake. And if we continue on after that, I'll have some Sun Bear Mountain Flower.
Awesome. Doing your homework today, huh?
Well, there are a couple of my favorites. I still haven't got my Beast yet because it takes like forever for any of that stuff to come to Canada. So I was kind of hoping it would, when I found out who was here, that some miracle would happen and we'd get to smoke it while we were talking. But that's not, I probably won't get it for another week or two. But yeah, I'll pass the pipe on to Brother Perry. Go ahead, bud.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Well, it's kind of a sunny, cold day up here in Northern California today, so we have a break from the rain for a change. And today I'm smoking, this is my Llanos Coquinos Billiard. And in it, I've got some Cornell and Deal Folklore. And I will follow that with a little Llanos nose warmer. So it's a Llanos morning for me. And I've got some, what is it, Inns of Court in there, some tobacco a friend gave me.
Very nice.
And so with that, I will pass the pipe on to Dimitri.
Thank you. Well, I'm starting with a folklore in my 601 Savinelli Church Warden. Folklore is absolutely amazing tobacco. Well, since I tried it a few months ago, I just cannot stop smoking it.
Very cool.
And yeah, I already got this, haven't tried it yet.
Yep.
And like about a month ago, I was hanging out with Kaz Walters. So he gave me a sample of this, and after that, of course, I bought one. That's Kaz's blend Midnight Drive, absolutely delicious. And let me pass the pipe to Kim.
Thank you, Dimitri. Well, it must be a folklore day today because that's exactly what I just filled this Peterson 9 BC. This is kind of a replica. This was the pipe of the year a couple of years ago, the 9 BC. Very nice shape. And I'm smoking folklore in it. Yes, I just discovered this recently, and what a wonderful blend. I also have a friend of mine in the pipe club who messaged me the other night who also had some very positive things to say about it. It's a great blend, really enjoyable. And after that, I'm going to go to one of my Drucker and Son blend, probably Casbah, like more of an English. I like that later in the afternoon. And so that said, I'm going to pass the virtual pipe on to Randall. Hi, Randall.
Hello, Tim. Thank you very much. Hope you got a good day going. Today, I'm using my old favorite Prince Albert in a brand new Chacombe, and it's kind of unique. It's called a special. Now, this is they make this shape all the time. However, I contacted them and I said, "Can you make me one of those in a sandblast version?" And they did. And I just got it. I smoked it one time, and it's really terrific. It's comfortable. It's light, clenches like a breeze, and I love it.
Nice.
Handsome pipe.
Amu?
Hello.
Hello. Hello. So afterwards, the weather is right. I'll dip into some of my, I don't know, some English blends, I'm sure. But with that, there's Miguel right next to me. How are you, Miguel?
Thank you, Randall. I appreciate it. I started my early morning today with Tom Elton, pencil shank with bamboo, Dublin, with a McBaron Pure Virginia Flake. And then right now I'm smoking a Radice Briar Blues 25th anniversary pipe, Radice with silver. And Carolina Red Flake from Cornell and Deal.
Nice.
It's one of my fantastic Virginia. If you love Virginia, I mean, you're missing out if you don't get one of these. Thank you so much. And I'll pass the Brittle Pipe Club to Chris.
Thanks, Miguel. Greetings, everybody. So today, pulled out my Tinsky pipe.
Wow.
This one I dedicate to McBaron Vanilla Cream. So I got some McBaron Vanilla Cream going today. If I get through this one, I'm going to pull out the Nick Johnson pipe I got there from LJ Peretti. And I'll put some Cordial Friends in that.
Nice.
Let's see. Let's pass the pipe on. Let's see, Serge, you're kind of moving around, but can you take the pipe?
Oh, hello everyone. It's crazy here. My dog is barking and I'm just moving around. But hello everyone. Good morning. Hello, Jeremy.
How's it going?
Doing good, my friends. Doing good. Well, my first pipe, I need to bring it from. It was right next to me, but my first pipe is gonna be Anthology, which is one of my favorite tobaccos. I'm a big fan of Anthology. And let me bring my pipe in 1 second.
I gotta say, I'm pretty excited about everybody who's got that folklore. That's pretty cool to see all the folklore.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. So
I
yes,
was
I'm
not
gonna.
expecting what I got with folklore. It turned out to be pretty complex stuff. I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anthology, and I got this nice, good-looking pipe. I've Radice it. I got it yesterday, so I've been smoking this since yesterday.
Sweet.
It's a great, nice, good-looking pipe. Smokes great. And then my second tobacco, I think I haven't picked it yet, but maybe one of these Virginia Periques that I like a lot. I don't know if you guys have tried. And I'm going to smoke this in one of Sean Broom's pipes. And pretty much that's the plan. And I gotta pass this to, let me see any hands here. Well, I don't see if somebody else is there.
Yeah, it looks like that might be it for unless anybody else wanted to go. Jerry. Oh yeah, sure. What are you smoking today? Sneaky, sneaky. You were hiding. I don't see him yet.
Yeah, yes. I've noticed that when I got package from him.
Would you go so far as to say that Janos is a gangster rapper? No. Okay.
Red John.
Sounds like a serial killer to me from some show.
Wow.
Wow.
That's really nice.
Beautiful.
Nice box.
Oh yeah. Wow. Whoa.
Whoa.
Can you flip? Yeah.
Wow, DDR,
Oh
that's
yeah.
awesome.
Oh, nice.
Are you on last car there, Ludo?
I mean, it is certainly
It's like an
looks.
S.
It looks like
I'd
a.
call it an Oompa Loompa.
It really looks like it has a classic Oompal kind of shape to it, but it's not but I mean, it's got the bend for that, but again, the bend is coming back and going toward the ball. I mean,
Yeah, it's like over.
it's like a freehand paul.
Reverse paul.
It looks comfortable. It looks balanced. Nice.
Congrats on that pipe, DDR. That's
Yeah,
really
congratulations. Absolutely. It's a beautiful pipe. Absolutely. Bud, what are you smoking? How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I'm smoking a pipe that was gifted to me by my friend Larry Eccles, and he passed away last weekend suddenly, and so our pipe club's been reeling from dealing with that because he was basically a fixture at our pipe club. And I'm smoking what he would call the good shit. I'm smoking some Capstan yellow that's ready rub that's 10 years old. So that's what I'm doing today. So
Well, I'm terribly sorry to hear about broken pipe in your guys' community. And
yeah,
the loss
appreciate
of
that.
friends. Absolutely. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate all of you guys for joining us. Appreciate all of you guys for hanging out, and I'm really excited to talk today with Jeremy. We got the beast in, and I thought, you know what, this would be a great opportunity to talk with him. He's been sharing some really cool stuff about, you know, Cornell and Deal and what they're doing in the Perique industry and what he's doing in the industry and his experience with Perique and down in St. James and at the St. James Parish. And I just thought it would be an opportunity to talk about a very specific niche market and topic, and yeah, just pass it on over to him. So Jeremy, thank you. Welcome. How are you? And thank you so much for hopping on today. I'm really excited to hang out with you today and with all of these guys.
Yeah, same. Thank you very much for inviting me, Amu. Yeah, doing good. I am not smoking a pipe right now. I have a Swedish snus in. Hillary and I were over at her parents' house a little bit ago and hanging out with them and her brother and his two sons, her nephews, and so wasn't smoking. So I've got a snooze in. But if any of you guys are into snooze at all and you haven't tried Grove, that's my favorite, and I think it's got a really nice, like, rich tobacco flavor. Nice, and it's basically like beef jerky with nicotine is kind of that's where it's at.
That sounds like a good alternative to smoking on at like a barbecue on 4th of July. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah, I don't know. Where should we start?
Yeah, so let's talk. Let's do this. For those who are unfamiliar, give us a little bit. You want to dive straight into the beast, or do you want to talk a little bit about your experience making the beast? Do you want to talk a little bit about the work you guys are doing there? Whatever you want to jump off, my friend.
Let's start with the beast, because the work with the Perique farm came later, and the recent reiterations of the beast really benefited from that relationship. But the beast predates our direct work in the Perique industry. So let's start with the beast.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about the beast, how it came about. When did you guys make your first batch? I know DDR, or was it just DDR, or somebody else that said that they had an older original version as well? But yeah, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I think DDR said that he has last year's, but the first time we made the beast, it was actually our second small batch. The very first time that we did a small batch was straight up English, and that was in 2015. And we didn't really know how it was going to perform. We thought, let's do something really small and see how it goes. So we made 400 tins of straight. What's that?
Oh, nope. Go ahead. Continue.
Oh, you're good. So yeah, we made 400 tins of straight up English and just put it up on smoking pipes. And those 400 tins lasted less than 45 minutes. So we were like, oh, okay. So yeah, this definitely has legs, but we should make more
Right.
than I can do something like this. So the second small batch was actually the Beast. The idea was really inspired by stories that kind of had drifted around pipe tobacco smoking circles for a long time surrounding weird occultist of the early 1900s, Aleister Crowley, who was trying to reach some sort of like transcendental state. And one of the experiments that he did was with pure St. James Perique soaked in rum. And he smoked straight Perique soaked in rum, trying to, I don't know, get wherever he was trying to get. But it doesn't really work that way. But we thought this was kind of an interesting story. And so that got me thinking about like, well, okay, well, I've smoked straight Perique and a lot of others have smoked straight Perique. And we could just, soak Perique in rum. But that seems a little too on the nose. And there are also some things about Perique that you don't really get to experience when it's just in its pure state. It needs other stuff to play off of to really get some of the complexity that Perique can add to a blend. And so, you don't get some of the really, really vibrant sweet notes that it has when you smoke it straight. You don't really get a lot of the vibrant kind of not just like pepper spice, but like the berry tones and some of the more like baking spice elements and things. Perique is very complex, but it really needs to be able to it needs to sing with other members of the choir for you to really be able to appreciate the tones that it can offer, if that makes sense.
Its range. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
One way that I describe smoking straight Perique is kind of like standing in a very, very ornate room with all sorts of beautiful decorations everywhere, but with all the lights off. It's like all dark. And shadow can add a lot of value to a photo and can add a lot of drama and a lot of complexity to a visual image, but you need light to be able to appreciate shadow. And so I started kind of thinking through like, okay, what can we do with a blend? What can I put together that will both give the flavor experience in a true way of smoking straight Perique, but will allow that flavor of Perique to spread out more without adding things that are also going to be putting a lot of their own input into it. In other words, how do I put together a choir that focuses really on the notes that Perique can hit, and what other things are underneath are really there more in support instead of something like Oriental that's going to make a really big impact in the flavor, or even like a bright Virginia or something like that that's going to add a lot of sweetness, a lot of character of its own. So I decided to use black Cavendish and red Virginia Cavendish because the Cavendish process makes those things more subtle and background, and really they're more prone to absorb the flavor of more powerful tobaccos in a blend. So using those would at once allow the Perique flavor to spread its wings more, but also would not impart a lot of their own flavor. They would instead absorb and disperse a lot of the Perique flavor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then the one thing that was kind of missing when I added the Black Cavendish and Red Virginia Cavendish, the one thing that they did by diluting the flavor of the Perique a little bit, kind of like adding a couple of drops of water to a nice dram of whiskey to open it up. The one thing that they did was they dropped down the nicotine lower than what it would be if you were smoking straight Perique. So to kick up the nicotine and to add back a little bit of the natural sort of like smoky kind of character, or really, really dark, like almost bitter kind of character that Perique has, I added just a small amount of dark fired Kentucky. Not enough to be really, really noticeable in the blend, but enough to kick the nicotine back up and to really help add back that dark punch that the Cavendish had sort of smoothed out and almost taken away. So the
That
goal,
dark fired Kentucky was, when I saw that that was an ingredient in there, that was something that I thought was pretty good add to, in my opinion. I think that you're right. It does add this nice little smokiness, but it's so subtle, you know, that's nice nicotine.
So thank you. So yeah, from there we put the blend together and then soaked it in rum for 7 days. We chose 7 days because most of our other rum soaked offerings, Blockade Runner and Black Frigate, go through a 7-day process, but 7 was also an important number in Crowley's numerology. And I want to put out a very clear disclaimer here, because I think there were some people that were upset that I am not at all advocating for or inspired by or into any of Crowley's demonology or any of his occult practices. I just find the idea that he was using this particular tobacco in a sort of sacramental way, albeit blasphemous, but like a way that he was trying to get to another state of mind with it. And while anybody who smokes straight Perique, it might be very strong, but you're not seeing things that aren't there. You're not you're not reaching any sort of transcendental state. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting, and we kind of got that idea from there, and then made it our own, and yeah. So thus the Beast, 51% Perique, and everything else is by comparison not only in actual in actual volume in the blend, but also in the way that those other things input to the blend is in the minority. Perique is really the star of the show, and the whole orchestra is centered around that particular note, that particular flavor spectrum that Perique has. So
some of us don't need to smoke anything to be seeing things that aren't there. That's not necessarily. I do have a question for you, if I could jump in.
Sure.
So when I did a review of last year's pressing of the Beast, what I said was that for a name that is so like the Beast, it was delightfully mild and delicious. And did the name the Beast just purely come from this association with Perique being soaked in rum and whatever, or what is it supposed to have, like a bite to it?
No, so I wanted it to be something that people could smoke straight Perique, or have the experience of smoking straight Perique, but have it be more enjoyable than that, and more approachable than that. But even still, at 51% is I wouldn't describe the blend personally as mild in terms of actual strength. But I'm glad that it comes across smoothly enough that it might seem mild to you. That's great.
I guess what I meant by mild was without over spice and a bite to it.
Sure. I don't think Perique straight has a bite. There's spicy elements to it, but it has a lot more to offer than just the pepper note. You know, like I mentioned before, it reminds me a lot of stone fruit and, you know, stewed figs and plums, but it also reminds me of Vietnamese fish sauce or soy sauce. It reminds me of mushroom. It's got loamy and really deep earthy characteristics. And so, yeah, I think that the spicy element of Perique is a part of it, but I think smoking straight Perique, I don't find it to bite at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like all of the different ways that you can enjoy Perique as well. I think it can be a very quiet chameleon almost, where you don't know what to expect when you open up a tin of something that has Perique in it sometimes.
Right. It can really veer a lot of different directions depending on what you've blended. And you know, Perique and Oriental go beautifully together. But like I say, Oriental has too much flavor impact on its own. And we decided against using Oriental or unprocessed Virginia as a pairing in this blend, because they would have made too much of their own flavor impact to allow the Perique to really be the main event. Even something as heavy-handed as Exclusive, which is 50% Perique, still paired with Red Virginia from North Carolina and Bright Virginia from Canada, you taste a lot of the Virginias, and the Perique is really there, adding body and volume and a lot of its own character and complexity. But the Virginias are still very, very present in the blend, and in the Beast, the Cavendish process really takes those other elements way in the background, way in a supporting role, and allows the Perique to really just kind of be almost the only thing going on. It's just mellowed, and those complex notes that Perique can have are allowed to really kind of spread out on their own without needing a lot of other input.
So tell me a little bit about the Perique that you guys use. So last year let me ask it like this. Has the Perique changed from tin to tin?
Yes. So in 2015, when we first did this, we were still purchasing Perique from Poche Farm, from LA Poche Perique Farm in St. James Parish. And at that time, there were really only two Perique processors. It was Percy Martin and LA Poche. The Martin operation has an exclusive contract with Santa Fe Tobacco Company that manufactures American Spirit cigarettes. And the reason for the exclusive contract is specifically for Santa Fe to use Perique in small quantity in the American Spirit Black and Gray pack, which are Perique Rich Bold. The black one is Perique Rich Bold, and the gray one is Perique Rich. So you can't buy tobacco from Martin unless you're Santa Fe, which left LA Poche. And LA Poche makes a blended Perique because there hasn't been a lot of Perique that was widely available actually grown in St. James Parish. It's just a very, very small crop, and only a handful of farmers grow it. And every year that number is in flux, and usually in the wrong direction. Usually there are fewer farmers growing. It's very rare for there to be a year where there are more farmers growing. So the Perique crop was at its biggest sometime in the 50s. It's estimated that there were about 220 acres of Perique grown, which is not very big. But that number has dwindled and dwindled and dwindled almost to nothing, and then it has come back, but in smaller numbers, and then dwindled and dwindled again, and then come back multiple times throughout the history of Perique, from the time that Pierre Chenet back in the 1820s developed a way of fermenting Perique that was an industrialized version of what the Choctaw and Chickasaw Indians were doing in that area. So Perique has always been tiny. Even when it was at its biggest, it was tiny compared to any other tobacco crop in the U.S. And currently, there are less than 60 acres of Perique grown. I think the number is closer right now to like 40.
Wow. And where does C&D come in on this? Where do you guys, how did you guys decide to use your Perique? Or how did you get to that decision?
Sure. So we were purchasing barrels of blended Perique from LA Pochet because they were the only other source. It's where anybody that was using Perique had to go if you wanted to buy Perique that had been stripped and was suitable for use in pipe tobacco. Or really, if you wanted to buy Perique and you were anybody other than Santa Fe Tobacco Company, the only option was to purchase from LA Pochet. Where we decided that a change needed to happen and where we were sourcing our Perique was a few different things. There were some quality issues that we ran into, and there were also a lot of quantity issues. Availability issues were getting tough with sourcing through LA Pochet. So I started going down to St. James Parish and kind of beating the bushes, trying to find a farmer that was growing Perique that I could make a deal with to grow Perique specifically for us. This was difficult for a number of reasons. If I'm a Perique farmer in St. James Parish and I've got two processors that I can sell my tobacco to, I can sell raw leaf that I grow, cultivate, harvest, hang in the barn and cure, and then sell as raw leaf to LA Pochet. And then I can get some decent money at that. But then I probably want to also support the other processor, because either of these processors might go away at some point. Perique has always been very precarious. And so most of the farmers down there were selling some raw leaf to LA Pochet, but then they were doing some barrel work. So planting, cultivating, harvesting, curing, and then breaking the leaves off of the stalk, processing it in the barrel where you make stacks of the leaf and you roll them up and you tie them with twine in, and then that gets packed into a bourbon barrel. There's a very specific way that it has to be packed. The tobacco has to be wet to activate the beginnings of fermentation.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has to be transferred to a barrel and placed under about 50,000 pounds of pressure, which removes most of the oxygen. And then you have a process of anaerobic fermentation taking place inside the barrel. So every 3 months, the tobacco is removed from the barrel. It's worked to loosen back up because these packs have been under 50,000 pounds of pressure. So the packs are rock hard, they're solid. And you're trying to reintroduce oxygen to them so that they can get rid of some of the impurities that the process is forcing out of them through fermentation, and so that you can reintroduce oxygen and, really more importantly, the microbes and natural yeasts that are in the atmosphere that are blowing in off of the Mississippi River, which all of the Perique farmers that are there and have always been there are only on the eastern bank of the Mississippi River, which cuts right through the middle of St. James Parish. You don't find Perique anywhere on the west bank. Only on the eastern side, on the north and east side of the Mississippi, does anybody grow Perique, and it's really only in a triangular swatch of land that's about 12 square miles. So it's very, very tiny. All of St. James Parish is 258 square miles, and tobacco is only grown in that 12 square mile area. So as a Perique farmer, I'm going to grow some of my tobacco and sell it as raw leaf to LA Pochet, and then I can get more money if I do some barrel work and do two stages of what we call turning, the process of removing the tobacco from the barrel, loosening it to reoxygenate, and then putting it back in the barrel for another 3 months. I can get more money if I then do a little bit of that and sell that to Percy Martin. So most of the farmers down there were already in business agreements, or at least doing business with, maybe they didn't have contracts, but at least doing business with either of those two processors. And I was essentially looking for someone who would break off and become their own processor and make Perique just for us.
When did you start that? When did you start that process, and how that's a big task. That sounds like a big task to wander down into those parts and start asking people to do that.
It definitely is. I started on this in late 2018. I began kind of putting feelers out, and I had been going down there for some time to hand select the barrels that we were purchasing from LA Pochet. So I had begun making some contact with farmers and folks down there that had connection to or history with Perique. But I really started in earnest in 2019. And so yeah, it was a big task, and part of the reason that it's a big task is because the culture is very much one of taking notice of outsiders, and you're either you're either one of us or you're not, is kind of it's a very, very not exclusive, but in some ways that's true, a very insular culture. And so I was really coming down as an outsider and asking people to do something different than what they were doing. And for the most part, people were skeptical and people were resistant to it. And it took time for me to build relationships, and it took time for me to build some trust and to be able to get into some of the conversations that needed to be had to really find a farmer that might be willing to go out off on a new path and become their own processor, get their processor's license, and process Perique specifically for one manufacturer, and that would have been Cornell and Deal. I, through several trips down there, met Ricky Roussel, and Ricky's family had been involved in Perique processing in St. James Parish back in the 20s all the way through the 70s.
Wow.
And so he had a lot of experience as a young kid, working under the barn with his uncle, Farrell Roussel, and his wife Barbara grew up in a farming family, and they grew Perique, and she grew up working under the barn as a young kid. and they had started growing Perique about 10 years prior, and mainly selling 2 turns fermented, partially fermented Perique to Percy Martin, to be used in American cigarettes. They did sell some raw leaf to Mark Ryan at LA Poche, but most of what they were really doing was focusing on partially fermented tobacco that they were selling to Percy Martin, that Martin would then finish the process and then sell to American Spirit. So they had been growing Perique. They were, already set up as a farm, and basically what we agreed was that they would plant for our needs, and that they would apply for their processor's license, and we helped them fill out some of the paperwork and figure out what things they needed to do with the TTB to get their processor's license, and that when they got their processor's license, then it would be legal for them to sell the Perique that they were able to process during that time while they were waiting for it to come through. As soon as they got the processor's license, they could sell to us. And so, yeah, we got that all started in 2019, and by 2021, we had purchased our first barrels from them. And last year's Beast did use some of their tobacco, but we were not using any of their tobacco in, I'm sorry, not last year, 2021. We did use the Beast, their tobacco in the Beast, but we were not using their tobacco in the rest of our Perique lineup until 2022, in early 2022 or late 2021.
So can we expect or I should say, can Cornell and Deal Perique smokers expect to start seeing that Perique in regular lineups?
That Perique has been used exclusively by us.
You already are. Okay.
Since basically late 21, early 22.
I'm curious, have you had anybody, just out of curiosity, notice a difference? I mean, I personally have not. I'm not a huge Perique smoker. I don't lean towards a lot of Perique blends, but I do smoke a lot of what C&D puts out, and a variety of different styles, and I haven't noticed.
That
to me, that speaks of consistency.
That's good. So we definitely have had a lot of people take notice, and I think side by side the products are quite different. But yeah, we haven't had. I mean, there hasn't been any sort of like negative response that I've encountered. Most of the responses that I've gotten, if people notice a difference, it's positive, and that's my experience with it. We have a much more consistent product, because basically when we were purchasing blended Perique previously from LA Poche, so you've got a product that contains tobacco from several different Perique farmers, as well as tobacco that it gets blended with from outside of St. James Parish, either from Kentucky or from Canada. And that makes up the majority of the Poche blend. So it's only a small amount that is actually St. James Parish Perique. Most of it is imported leaf from Kentucky or from Canada. And then the Perique that is there, it's not even all from one farm, it's from multiple different farms. And so you kind of have think about the difference that can be made in a process when the people that are completing the process are also starting the process and doing every step in between, versus having no idea what happened in the field at this one farm in this one area of the field at a particular time. With our farm, we're always looking at like, oh, this part of the field right now is doing really well, or there's a spot back here that got flooded out a little bit that we had to go and dig out and drain off. We need to treat that tobacco differently. We need to make sure we know where it ends up getting hung in the barn. We need to know then when we're processing that tobacco that we don't need to wet it as much. When we're beginning the stripping process and then moving it into barrels, and then we need to know which barrels that tobacco is in, so that we might make differences in the amount of pressure that it gets put under, or the amount of times that it gets worked, the amount of times that it gets turned. So our farm is starting the process in seed beds in their greenhouse and doing every step from that point until the time that it becomes Perique. And they know what happened in their field in different areas, and they know what barrel has which tobacco in it from which part of the field. So they know different things to do in order to get a more consistent overall product at the end. And in a blending situation where you're just buying raw leaf, the history of what happened to that leaf prior to the time that you purchase it is lost.
Yeah, that makes sense. The intimacy, that makes sense. It really is an intimacy with the crop and with understanding. So I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to go back and maybe I'll dig up an old tin of something and do a little comparison just now that I know that that's different Perique. It's
Sure.
very cool. That's awesome. I do actually have some questions that are popping up from the YouTube community. If you're okay with maybe popping up questions here before we continue. One of the questions that I actually also had, somebody wanted to know why was obviously everything is going up. We all know that we're living in a time right now when inflation is just nuts. Is part of that increase on the cost of this specific small batch because of the Perique, because the cost of the Perique is going up, because of the intimacy of the product, because of all of that?
Yes, absolutely. So buying Perique from LA Poche, we were paying about $10.50 a pound. That is a pretty high price for tobacco. General cost on raw leaf sits, give or take, around the average of between $4.50 and $5 a pound.
Oh, so yeah, that is a lot. $10, yeah.
So, but Perique is the most labor-intensive tobacco on the planet. You not only have the steps that are involved in any tobacco crop of planting and keeping your tobacco healthy and clean and good with proper nutrition through the growing cycle, then harvesting, and then curing, but you also have an additional year of processing beyond the growing time. You have a year of processing, and that processing is meticulous and labor intensive hand work. There is no way to automate this. So when you take the tobacco out of the barn, you're taking down stalks that have leaf still on them. You are breaking each leaf off of the stalk until you've got a grouping of them, say 10 or 12 leaves. And then you grab one of them and wrap it around at the base and loop it through the stems at the back. So basically you've made a hand of tobacco. And that tobacco gets stacked onto a table, where it gets taken once the table is full over to the washing station. At the washing station, somebody is using water to wash each individual leaf to get mud and any dirt or anything that's on the tobacco, and is also introducing the first moisture that this leaf has had in several days, and in give or take about a month. So the leaf is really oily. It doesn't get wet easily, so you really have to wash this tobacco and then allow some of the excess moisture to drip off and shake it off. And then that moisture slowly seeps into it. When the tobacco is soft to the point that it's easy to remove the midrib, then that is done leaf by hand, because the only way to get 2 even halves of the leaf removed from the midrib is to do that by hand. There is not a mechanical way to do that. Mechanical stripping gives you pieces of leaf, and the only way to get the midrib removed and the 2 pieces of lamina on either side of the midrib remain fully intact as whole pieces, the only way to do that is to hand strip. Hand stripping takes a really long time. Even the most skilled tobacco strippers that I know can strip somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 pounds of tobacco in an 8-hour day. So there you start to see, like, this is a expensive thing to do, but that's not even the half of it. Once you've got the tobacco stripped and it's wetted, it has to be stacked and tied into bundles. The reason you tie it into bundles is so that you have units that are easy to pack into the barrel. So you don't just have loose pieces of leaf everywhere packed in the barrel. It's easy to group them because, as I explained earlier, they have to be pulled out of the barrel several times through the course of the process to aid in the fermentation. So the tobacco gets packed into a barrel, and think about the shape of a barrel. If you pack a pack a barrel full to the top with tobacco and then start pressing it down, you've got an air gap when you get about halfway through the barrel. So you've got to pack the bottom part of the barrel and then put a bunch of blocks of wood on top of it and use a railroad jack and press that down. Once you've got that pressed, then you can add another layer. And then again, you've got to press that down. So it takes a really long time to get 500 pounds of tobacco into a barrel without any air gaps because of the shape of the barrel. And if you have air gaps, then it won't have an anaerobic fermentation take place, and instead it will become a hotbed for mold and for composting. If you have air gaps, if you leave a spot where tobacco is not fully packed tight against the wall of the barrel or not fully packed tight in the center, then you end up with mold. And eventually you end up with the degradation of the leaf taking place, where it's basically composting and turning into slime. So in order to maintain the integrity of the tobacco, you have to go through this long process of filling the barrel properly before you put it under full pressure so that you actually have anaerobic fermentation take place. But then every 3 months, you have to, on a dry day, where it's hopefully a little cloudy, you have to take all the tobacco out of the barrel, and each pack is rock hard. It's been under 50,000 pounds of pressure. So imagine a stack of leaves tied in the middle with twine. You can hold it in the center and it just stands out straight. You've got to grab on either side. You don't want to break anything or rip anything, but you have to begin working it to loosen all those leaves up until they're floppy and loose on the end, so that they can drink in oxygen and be exposed to the natural yeasts that are blowing in right off the river. You're right on the riverbanks, basically. That's another factor too, that because of the requirement that you are near the Mississippi River, in order to benefit from the effluvial effect that the river has on the nutritional value of the soil, but also so that you have access to these natural yeasts that are blowing in off the river. That also means that your crop is constantly at risk due to the loss from hurricanes and other storms. Flooding is a really bad problem, and hurricanes destroy crops all the time. The very first year that we had tobacco growing at 31 Farm, the back half of one of the fields was badly damaged and flooded out from a small tropical storm that came through, and it was all hands on deck to try and save that tobacco. I flew down there and put on mud boots and a big straw hat with all of the other farmers, and we dug out all of those plants to try and save what we could, and to go through each one and throw away what was no good, because we weren't going to put anything bad into a barrel that would then end up causing the rest of the barrel to rot. But but excuse me, but that had to be done in order to save those plants. This is the kind of thing that happens down there all the time. So back under the barrel, you're taking tobacco out, you're working to get each one of these packs loose so that it can drink in oxygen. You allow it to sit out in air for between 12 and 24 hours, depending on what's going on in that particular barrel. And you may determine that, like, oh, there's a little bit of ammonia here that needs to really gas off, and so you give it more time. Or this actually is really good, we'll leave it out for 12 hours, but then it can go straight back into a barrel. So between 12 and 24 hours of airtime, and then you're going back pack by pack, as I described before, packing a barrel at the bottom. It takes, give or take, about one full day of work to get all the tobacco out of one barrel for one person, to get all of the tobacco out of one barrel and loosened. And then it takes about one full day of work for that same person to fill the barrel the next day.
Wow.
And then this has to be done at least 3 times over the course of a year. And then at the third time that you turn, then you're capping. When you fill the barrel the third time, then that last 3 months is the 9-month to 12-month period, and you're storing it with the cap on, but still under pressure. So it's a very long process, and every single step requires lots of hand labor. Putting the pressure down onto a barrel, you will work up a sweat and get dizzy quickly, because we're using screw jacks. You set 2 half moon pieces of maple wood on top of the surface of the tobacco at the top of the barrel. Then you set a block of wood on top of those in the center. And then you set a screw jack on top of that. And then you use a small bar to raise the top of the jack to where it's in contact with the pressing frame. And then you move to a big bar so that you have a lot of leverage. And for 15 minutes, you are just cranking down pressure on that tobacco to get it under so much pressure that you can't move that big bar anymore. Every step of this is hard work. Every step of this is labor intensive. And so we're not talking about a blended product where some of the tobacco costs $2.25 a pound to the processor, and some of the tobacco is St. James Parish tobacco that costs $8 a pound. We're talking about tobacco that we're purchasing from a farmer that started at seed, and then they're doing every step of the process along the way. So our Perique costs $17.25 a pound.
Wow. Hey, Jeremy, let me pop in for a second here. The first thing to notice, guys, is this is why Jeremy looks so buff these days. He's been working on that. What I wanted to do is just to kind of open it up, see if we have some questions from the guys in the meeting today. We've been getting some great questions from the people over there watching us on Facebook and YouTube, and this is another great time for you to type your questions into the chat there, because I'm sending them off to Amu to pitch to Jeremy as well. But we've got a bunch of cool people. Silver Gray is here. Dave in LAX is here. Maybe we can get him to give us an update on the Vegas show. I'm hoping that Jeremy, you'll be at Vegas because I'm going to be at Vegas too, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you, man.
Awesome.
But if you've got some questions for Jeremy, go ahead and put up that electronic hand and let you talk to him directly. And I'm going to do a quick plug while I've got your attention, and that is to remind you that on April 8th, we're going to have the anniversary celebration of the Virtual Pipe Club. And we've already been out there buying some pipes and getting that all set up. And I want to extend a special invitation to Jeremy to join us on that day. Maybe we can, if you're available, we'll get you to help us call out the winners of the raffles. So if you're available, man, love to have you join us.
What is the date again?
That's
Saturday.
April 8th.
April 8th. I am going to have to see. I have a trip to England that I leave on Tuesday. I get back on the 2nd, and then I have a trip to North Carolina on the 3rd. I'm going to have to see what I can do.
Just keep me posted. You could always just let me know. Keep me posted. I'm gonna ask you one more question that we have from the YouTube, from one of our YouTube watchers, and then I'll open up to everybody who's with us today in the actual Zoom. Jeremy, did you get a chance to read the FDA just released a proposal about tobacco product manufacturing practices? Have you had a chance to read it? Do you have any thoughts on it? I haven't had a chance to look at it either.
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
When did they publish this?
It looks like just a couple of weeks ago. I think I saw the PCA might have released something. I think I saw that also in my email. It was a question from a YouTube listener, but yeah, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago. But if you haven't, then
I can read you the summary here. The regulations set requirements for the manufacturing, packaging, labeling, storage, and distribution of tobacco products to ensure their safety and quality, which kind of speaks to what you guys are working with right now. Some key requirements include registering manufacturing establishments and listing tobacco products with the FDA, because we don't have enough regulation and government oversight over tobacco, apparently. This is still in the proposal stage, guys, so I don't want anybody to freak out and go, oh my God, it's 1984 all over again. This still has to be approved, voted on, have hearings on it and whatnot. But it's out there now, and so that's what's coming up for that.
Do you off the top of your head, or Jeremy, so a couple of years ago, right before 2020, it was actually 2019, I think, the FDA had already put out a proposal for a lot of this stuff anyway. They were already tackling, grandfathered products and new labeling and registering everything. And a lot of that was tabled and shelved during COVID. And I think they were talking about bringing that kind of back to the floor. Do you know if that's what this is? Do either of you know if that's
This is probably part of that process. There had been I'm not sure if it was a lawsuit, or I think it was a lawsuit that challenged the specificity of the regulations that had been, put in place, and we actually won that. So the FDA had to go back and redo all of their regulations to be more,
Right, right.
specific. And I would guess, not knowing, not really keeping up with it, but I would guess this is their answer to that.
Okay. So without having read it, I can't speak to the specific regulation that we're talking about with any intelligence, but I can say that our deadline for registering all of our products, registering all of our grandfathered products, establishing all of our substantially equivalent products, registering our manufacturing facility, all of our manufacturing practices, like all of that was given to the FDA by us and any other law-abiding tobacco manufacturer on September 9th of 2019. So
Okay.
the overview that you presented sounds like absolutely no new territory.
Interesting. It'll be interesting. Yeah, I'll probably take a look too. Maybe we can all take a look and readdress it when we meet up next.
Yeah.
See if anybody finds anything else out.
That's
All right. So anybody have any questions? Let's see. I see some hands up. Perry, do you want to ask Jeremy something?
Yeah, thanks. First I want to say, Jeremy, this is fantastic. I think I've gotten more insight into Perique and Perique production from what you've told us today than I've ever been able to find on the web. So thanks so much. It's just great.
My pleasure. Thank you, Perry.
The question I have is this. It sounds like Perique is very, very unique to St. James Parish. Is there anywhere else in the world that anything like Perique is grown?
So there's Arapiraca in Brazil and in Argentina. Arapiraca is another indigenous tobacco and indigenous curing and fermentation process, but Arapiraca typically is rolled into twists, kind of like what you see from some of the Gaywith products, the double brown bogey and black double X, happy brown bogey and black double X and those kinds of things, those rope tobaccos. This is a similar kind of thing. They roll ropes that are like the size of shipping ropes, like the kind of rope that you would see, like the size that you would see a rope made of on a big ship. And it's common to see it in spools, and a lot of times you'll see it for sale in places like hardware stores that will have fermented tobacco in these big ropes, these big long ropes on great big spools, like you would see rope on traditional jute rope, but with a little cutting board and a hatchet off to the side, and so you can like chop off the chunk that you want, and then they weigh it and sell it to you by weight there in the hardware store. So that is a similar product. It's not the same, but it is unique to Brazil and one area of Argentina. Outside of that, I am not aware of any other practices that are
also Anduyo, which is very similar process, but with a higher pressure.
What was it?
Anduyo, that's native to Caribbean, mostly Dominican Republic. They also twist it in a rope, wrap it in a palm leaf, and tight rope around it, and tighten it over and over for a few months. In Indonesia, they use very similar process, very similar to Anduyo, but it's basically the same process.
Very good. Yeah, awesome. I had forgotten about Anduyo. You're correct.
Did anybody else have a question? Ramachandran, do you want to ask yours?
Yeah. Thank you. Jeremy, this is Ramachandran from India. It's great to be seeing you today and directly speaking to you. I got two questions. Number one, that's not just only about Perique, but what's the time frame involved right from the stage of a seed of the plant until the time it actually reaches the smoker's bowl? What's an average time frame that's involved for a tobacco plant to grow and get it processed and come into the bowl? And secondly, after hearing your process about Perique, I now realize how hard and how laborious the whole process is.
Mhm.
In spite of all that, do you find any specific blend which you feel did not get the recognition that it involved vis-a-vis the labor that you had put in creating that blend, which didn't get the kind of recognition and popularity which you think that it owes?
Ah, thank you very much for the question. So from Perique seed to the time that it is ready to be used in a blend and could be in a tin and coming to you to smoke. So this year's crop was in seed beds in early February, and it is actually literally being planted right now today. I spoke with Ricky yesterday, and they were transplanting the seedlings from the greenhouse to the field yesterday. They had just started, so they are planting right now. This tobacco will be ready to begin breaking off of stalks and going into barrels in mid to late July. And they will be doing that process all the way through until early September. And then the earliest barrels will be ready to sell. They'll be finished with the fermentation process in around July.
And when do they make it to you guys then after that?
Anytime after that.
Anytime
Once
after
the earliest barrels are ready, we could purchase those from them at any time. We don't buy all of the barrels all at once, so that they can remain stored under pressure until we want to purchase more, and then we order what we want to order to use for the next period of time, and they remove the pressure and put the cap on and then put pressure back on, and store them for a couple of days that way to make sure that we don't have a barrel like bust in shipment, and then they ship them to us. So they are continuing to ferment until we purchase them. So yeah, it's roughly a year and 4 months from seed to the time that the tobacco is ready to sell.
Jeremy, do they ship it to you in a barrel or do they ship it to you in bales?
In a barrel.
Nice big barrel. And what about, I actually really thought that was a great question from Ramachandran. I also am curious to know if there's any blends that have been overlooked by
Folklore is one of the most labor-intensive blends that we make, and while it did get a lot of people really enjoying it, I really appreciate those of you that were smoking Folklore today. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. But as far as appreciation in the greater pipe community, I feel like it has been sort of the way that it's been received has been a mixed bag. That is one of the most labor intensive blends that we make, as far as the work that we have to do to process all of the different components involved in that blend. Not to mention the labor that's involved in the dark fired and in the Perique, which we don't directly do, but is involved in making that tobacco. So that would be a blend that I wish had been more broadly received a little better than it has been, but I also understand that people's tastes are different, and I'm glad that those of us that do enjoy it do enjoy it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Looks
Thank
like we
you.
have a couple more questions and a couple more minutes left. So, Mitri, what you got here?
Well, at first, I want to say about folklore. It's very interesting that you introduced the Kasturi tobacco in that. I had chance to smoke straight Kasturi, so I can actually detect that flavor in the blend. I also smoked Kasturi in Kretek from Indonesia, so I'm quite familiar with the tobacco, and it actually introduces unique touch to that blend. And about Perique, I did smoke Perique straight. I smoked different Perique straight. Yes, you're right. If you smoke Perique straight, you don't detect a lot of the notes, especially the fruity part of the Perique. You need to cut it with different tobaccos. But if you don't smoke Perique straight, you cannot understand difference between different kinds of Perique.
That is
And
correct.
my question is, how do you decide which Perique goes to certain blend? Do you try to make it with the different kinds of Perique, or you just use whatever you have available and make a blend to work with this particular Perique?
So all of the Perique that we use comes from a single farm, from 31 Farm in St. James Parish, Louisiana. We do not use any other Perique.
Yeah, but before you did use different ones.
Right, but then we were purchasing what we could from what Clocher had available.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. And Dave, looks like your hand is up too, my friend.
Hey, Jeremy, just in quick touch on folklore, the size kind of stumped me because in Canada, I'm scared to order a pound of tobacco because the duty is insane. If I go over 200 grams, a pound of tobacco could potentially cost me, $400 or $500 in taxes and duty. But I had a good friend in the club here, Miguel, who sent me some, and I really liked it. I just can't really sell her it, but I just wanted to comment on the forward thinking of you guys and C&D and yourself with securing a consistent product. As I'm kind of a freak fiend, so, and a big fan of a lot of your blends. So I'm really happy that you guys took the initiative to do that. And just congratulating you guys on kind of securing a more like a seed to pipe, that farm to table kind of process to make your products more consistent. And just congratulating you guys on that. I think I don't really have a question regarding the Perique. I just wanted to comment on that and say, good job, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
I got the first batch, Jeremy, of folklore, and it's a fantastic blend. Now I know what you meant by saying there's nothing in between. Some people loves it, some people basically, and I just don't understand when people actually put it in, post it on social media. That I always ask them, it's how many times did you smoke it? I mean, you're gonna take at least 3, 4, 5 bowls before you can make a decision if it is bad or not. But I have a friend that actually bought 3 bricks of that folklore, and the first time he tried, it's like, man, it's not for me. And I said, I made a suggestion to him. This is what I want you to do. Just pair it, because I love spirits as well. Pair the folklore with the Laproy quarter cast. Try it with folklore. And I can tell you, don't try. To me, I don't want to try it with a Sherry Cask or Highland Speyside, a single malt. Right? But if you tried it with Lagavulin, quarter cast Laproy, it actually accentuates the flavor of that folklore. But it's just so unfair sometimes when you read it on post that, I mean, come on, man, you smoke what? 2 bowls, and you're gonna tell me that you made the decision that it's a poor tobacco. Sometimes you just have to laugh, and to me, I love it. I got the first batch that you guys made. I put it in a jar, and it's just sitting on my cellar. Once in a while, I'll grab it, and the things that you guys did, especially with the Carolina Red Flake, and then the one that you released, Carolina Red Flake with Perique. I mean, man, it's like a unicorn. It's just, I mean, some people will buy it, and this guy, I swear to God, he probably bought it for $14.99, and then the following year, this dude is selling it for $200. I was like, come on, man, you have to enjoy the tobacco. You don't have to gouge people. But it's just sometimes people tend to actually judge the blend by not smoking it enough. You're gonna grow into it, take it, and then if you love spirits, try and pair it with different spirits. But to me, I made a suggestion to my friend, and now he can't stop smoking because I said, try it. He grabbed a bottle of Porter Cask Laport, and every night for the last, I think, a month and a half now, all he does, he does basically at night after work, after his office work, and then he comes home and basically smoke it. Try it with a different spirit so that you can accentuate basically the flavor of the blend. Thank you.
I agree with
also,
that.
Bourbon and dark rum, excellent pairing for folklore.
I agree. And you're speaking my language too. Lafroig is my favorite whiskey. It is my desert island whiskey. It tells me I am consistent when you tell me that a blend that I worked on putting together pairs nicely with my absolute favorite whiskey.
You introduced me to Lafroig, and as soon as he said that, I said, okay, that's there.
This one right here, the Carolina Red Flake. This one is actually good on a pretty high proof bourbon. I mean, especially with the high proof bourbon that, to call it bourbon, you have to be 51% corn. But a high proof bourbon with the Carolina Red Flake, I mean, I'll give you a cask strength of Knob Creek that is readily available. I mean, pair it with the Carolina Red Flake. I mean, it's just fantastic pairing.
Have you tried it with Stag?
Yeah.
George Stag.
Well,
that's a great pairing with that tobacco.
Exactly. It's a BTAC basically is obviously all of us know that it's a unicorn. I mean, there's not enough up there. But you're correct. BTAG, I tried it, and Poppy 10 and 12, it's actually pretty good as well. So, yeah. And another suggestion I can give you is Blanton's. If you can get a hold of Blanton's, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Jeremy, I cannot thank you enough for spending this time with us. I can't thank you all for spending this time together. I definitely have to agree with what Perry said. I feel like I've learned more about Perique in this conversation and about the process than I have ever had the opportunity. I mean, you and I talk a lot, but you're just such a wealth of knowledge. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us, taking the time out of your Saturday to hang out with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for coming. I'm really excited. You guys do not want to miss our next virtual pipe club. That is April 8th. We are celebrating our birthday. We've got some raffles. We've got some exciting stuff. I'm really excited to see you all then. And I look forward to that. And until then,
let me jump in real quick before I
I sent you a message a couple of weeks ago. Did you get it? About I suggested the guest for one of our shows.
Yes, I did. I'm still working on it, but thank you so much for sending that in.
I just want to make sure you got it.
The breadth of experience and relationships that we have in this club is just always mind-blowing, and I really appreciate when people send me those kinds of suggestions. So thank you, Dimitri, and I really want to invite anybody who's got an idea like that, just message me, man, because we'll try to get them on the show. A couple of questions came up on the YouTube channel about the raffle, the anniversary. Three things. Number one, raffle tickets are $25. That's all. You can buy more than one if you want to. It increases your chances of winning. You do not have to be there at the anniversary to win. If you buy a raffle ticket and then somebody made the observation that that's Easter weekend, totally get that some of you may have family, church, barbecue, whatever. And for those people who are not that, we're going down to Jeremy's house because he's got a big party going on. I understand, so we'll be hanging out with him. So I put the link. I just did it in the chat for the people on the live stream. I just put it in the chat here with you guys in the Zoom room for going to get your raffle tickets. Amu, can you spend like 5 more minutes? Since David is here, maybe we can get an update on the Vegas show and while he's here. And
Before we do that, I just wanted to real quick, Jeremy, I know I don't know if you have to run, but please feel free to. And again, thank you so much. And then, yes, I do want to get an update on the Vegas show. And I look forward to seeing you at the Chicago Pipe Show, right? You'll be in Chicago in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Month. Woohoo. So those of you who are coming to the show, we'll get to see him then.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to get off of here, but I really appreciate all of the participation. And just, thanks so much for inviting me to join your pipe club.
It's so great to see you, man. We miss you a lot. You're one of our favorites. Well, we have a lot of favorites, but you're one of the biggest. So thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
See you guys.
Yeah. So Dave, do you have any updates? I'd love to. That's great. DDR, thank you for that. Yeah. Do we have any updates on the Vegas show?
Yeah. Thank you very much for letting me plug it. Anyway, it was a great meeting. Jeremy is really, Jeremy is just a great presenter, and I can't wait. Chicago's coming up. I'm thinking Chicago. I'm not thinking Vegas. Vegas is like 199 days, 198 days away. But we've got the Vegas pipeshow.com is up. We're taking reservations for everything on that. That's the one-stop shop for the show. But we're just planning another great year. So thank you for letting me plug it, and vegaspipeshow.com.
Awesome. Thank you. I know those of you too on the show, I'll actually just do a little plug for Tim, I guess, on the pipe show, on the Chicago Pipe Show. Make sure you guys get your rooms. I think the discount was scheduled to end on the 31st of March for the rooms. They were trying to work on pushing that back a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure if they got it pushed back yet, and they haven't sent out a mailer yet. So let's assume that it's the 31st. So if you haven't gotten your rooms yet, still planning on coming to the show, make sure you guys do that so you can get the discounted room rate. We're excited. There's going to be a lot of cool things that are happening this year, a lot of cool seminars and events, and we're pumped to see everybody. So I have nothing else. DDR, did you have any besides April? Did you want to talk a little bit more about the raffle or anything like that while we have everybody here? All right. Well, as always, it's an honor to hang out with you guys. Thank you very much. And I really look forward to seeing you guys. Stay safe.
Wait, one more thing.
Go ahead, DDR.
Big round of applause for Amu. Yeah.
You guys are too much. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I like hanging out with you guys a lot. So thank you guys for having me.
Always.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Be blessed, everybody. And we'll see you guys.